All right. We are still on the topic. We cannot keep going on this way. And if yesterday's events tell you anything, I think I'm spot on. It's not that we haven't had these things before in our country, but every time we have these things, there's always a pressure, a divide, hatred, bitterness, anger between two sides or three sides, and the struggle, and it's always released in violence somehow. And so we cannot keep going on this way. I was talking last Sunday about our country. Today I want to talk more about us individually, how we need to make better choices. I know the story of a girl. It was her senior year, and she was doing invitations and writing them out, putting stamps on them, got them all done. And she lived out in the country. You guys would know this. She lived out in the country, and she got in her car, told her mom and dad that she was going to go mail her invitations. And she drove off to town because she had to go to town to mail them off. And there's a fork in their road that they have, and both of them lead to town. And like one went this way, one went the other way. The family always takes this one road. For some odd reason, she decided to take the other one and gets hit by this big truck and kills her. It struck home to me at that moment in time how just the simplest decisions can affect or change your entire life. How it changed their whole life, the whole family. If she had taken the normal road, and she didn't do anything wrong, she just decided to take another road. But a simple choice changed everything. Can do the same for us in our lives. A simple choice, but a better choice can change everything. In your home, in your personal life, in your church, where you work, to make a choice, a better choice. And then I remember a girl, she kept sneaking out to be with this guy. And her family kept telling her, mom and dad, you can't be with this guy, you can't be with those group of friends. They even grounded her and sent her to her room even, and all those things. Well, one night, they're watching TV, and they get a knock on the door. They open the door, and it's the police. They asked them if their daughter's name was this, and they said yes. And they said, we're sad to inform you that she passed away tonight. I said, no way, she's in her bedroom. The officer said, I'm sorry. They went to the bedroom and opened the door, and there was the bedroom window open. She had crawled out. Decided to go with these friends, and they decided to do a nighttime ride out in the country with the top down. Now, these are more city folk, and they're not used to being out in the country, and they were going very high speeds, and didn't see the tree that had fallen across the road and smashed right into it, killing all of them. Just a simple choice of disobedience as a teenager changed everything in that family's life. A simple choice, it seems. Just a small thing. And so to say, well, it's not hurting anybody, it's not going to make a big difference, it's not, you ever drop a rock in a water, even a little pebble, and you've ever seen how it grows? Every decision you make is a pebble in that water and the wave that it causes. It always affects everyone. One of the hardest things to deal with as a father, and that was difficult for me, was to realize that every decision I made, every choice I made, affected my kids, either good or bad. But the bad is what I didn't want to happen. Every choice I made, and even now, even to this age, still does. And it does affect you if you think that way. I've got to be careful what choices I make. They have to be good. I have to make better choices. I remember when Jonathan was coming along and somebody was talking to me and they said, "Your whole life's about to change." And I remember saying, "Nah, I don't see how. I mean, I'm going to have a baby. We've got to figure out how to carry him around and stuff, but it's not going to change." They just laughed at me. Then we go and we have the baby and they hand Jonathan to me. And something came over me. Oh my goodness. I have a little life that I have to take care of, that's dependent on me. I could hold him in one hand back then, believe it or not. Now I don't even know if I could pick him up. But it did change me. I had to take life more serious. The freewheeling, doing whatever I want, having fun all the time, Michael, had to end. I'm a dad. And so we need to focus in our lives, in our hearts, to make better choices. We can't keep going on this way. And we have to make better choices. So when we read there in Deuteronomy chapter 11, Jonathan read it, God, and by the way, God is an in-your-face kind of God. He's not on the sidelines waiting to see what to happen. He's not. He's involved in your life. He's all up in your Kool-Aid, if you want to say. He's in your face constantly. He's very active in your life. The Bible says, David says, if I go to the highest mountain, you are there. If I go to the deepest sea, you are there. No matter where I go, guess what? You're there. You're involved. You want something from me. You desire something from me. You expect something from me. I think that we forget that God expects things from us. He is the God of the universe. I had a pastor friend that used to say, I don't know if he says it anymore, that God created this universe and He created you and He created all the rules and all the laws. And if you don't like them, go create your own. Until then, you better well obey this one. So God challenges us. He gets in our face. He expects things from us. And He expects us to make the right choice. Now we have free will. We have the ability to make the choice. But He's sure expecting us to make the right one. It's not any, that's why the Bible tells us that we look at Him as our Father, because we can relate to that. As parents, we do the same thing with our children. We'll be involved in their lives. We'll be pushing in their lives. We're teaching them to make good choices. And we'll give them a little free will, a little freedom to make those choices. But we want them to make good choices. We'll set it up so they can make an easy, good choice. We'll try to do all we can, but it's still up to them. And then as they grow older, they get more and more free will and more away from mom and dad. The hope is that we taught them well. We gave them all they need. We equipped them so they can make what? Good decisions, good choices. And God's the same with us. He's involved. He expects, but you have the free will. So here it is. God comes before Israel, and He has the same choices for us as He gave Israel, by the way. Same thing. He's the same God. He expects the same from everyone. Old Testament, New Testament, 1,000 years ago, today. He expects the same things from us. And here He is. He says in Deuteronomy chapter 11, verses 26 and 27, Behold, I set before you this day a blessing and a curse. A blessing if you obey the commandments of the Lord your God, which I command you to this day. And so, here it is. God says, I can be either your blessing or your curse. Or your curse. Again, God our Father, as parents, is it not the same thing? Either you're really happy to go home today, or you're sheepish and hope they didn't know what you did. Because if you're happy to go home, you know you didn't do anything that you want to keep from mom and dad. There's no secrets that you want to hide. And so you feel fine going home. Because mom and dad are going to be a blessing today. I did what was right. But if you go and did something secretly, or you hid something, and when you go home, you're afraid, are you not? Why? Because mom or dad are going to be a curse if they find out. And that's what God says. I can either be your blessing, or I could be your curse. I'm a blessing if you obey my commandments. Read the New Testament, it's the same thing. Jesus says, if you love me, you'll do what? Keep my commandments. You will obey me. It's amazing to me. Again, the illustration is so perfect. How do we know our children love us? By their obedience. By their obedience. How do I know my wife loves me? By her obedience. By her obedience. How does my wife know that I love her? By my obedience. My obedience. It happens. We can call it submission, but that's what it is. My wife has house rules. I'm trying my best. I do the best I can. One is I know this all sounds silly, but it's all part of life, is it not? I guess I didn't know this until she told me that I have this bad habit of getting the bathroom floor all wet. And then she walks in and she falls flat on her butt. That would be... No, that's not funny. And so I had to learn how to towel off to appease her, and that was her rule. I don't want water on the floor. Now, it's a reasonable rule. But I could say, I'm the man. I don't care. I'm going to do it my way. And I'm showing her disobedience that I don't really care. You get it? When we disobey God, we're saying to God, I really do not care. And God says, I have to be a curse to you to make you care. God can be a blessing or He can be a curse. There will be an ultimate day when we all stand before God, all of us, and we have to give an account of our life that He's given us. And God will either be a blessing or a curse that day. And there will be some cursed to the lake of fire. God is not going to be a blessing to them. Now, they got to choose You get to choose. All of us choose our own destiny. We've been given free will. But with that comes the responsibility of making better choices, good decisions. So how do I? Based on God's commandments. He gave us everything we need right here to make good choices. You know, you get caught cheating on a test. Shouldn't cheat. But you've learned through the years that you can lie about it and get by with it. And you lie. You don't think there won't be consequences to that from God? Oh, maybe earth people, humans can't get you. They don't know. They can't discern. But God knows. And you don't think there won't be consequences? Jesus even says we will reap what we sow. You know, that's the funny thing. If you're a cheater and a liar, guess what the punishment will be? The Bible says you will reap what? What you sow. You'll get cheated on and you'll get lied to. Or lied about. God, don't let that happen. No, don't. God says, I can be a blessing or I can be a curse. The choice is yours. Obey His commandments. Learn this book. Study it. Memorize it. Know it. We're held responsible for it. One of the funniest things, or sometimes the most annoying thing as a teacher is as you're teaching, somebody will always raise their hand and say, will this be on the test? Yes. Assume everything I tell you will be on the test. We'll have the Bible and we'll say to God, oh, you expected me to know that? You expected me to read this? You expected me to live this way? Or what do you think He gave it to us? Reminds me of, I'm only going to get on one point today, by the way, okay? Probably. It reminds me of the story of Samuel Clemens. Everyone knows Samuel Clemens, Mark Twain. I love Mark Twain. I love him so much that one weekend I just came home and went to Hannibal, Missouri just to see. I saw the cave that he wrote about. I saw a lot of the historic places, and I love it. But he has a book called Life on the Mississippi, and he's writing about his life, Samuel Clemens. And he always wanted to be a captain for a steamboat. And so he got an opportunity to work on a steamboat, and he's walking around with the captain. And I can't remember if he is a navigator or what, but he's worked his way up, and now he's with the captain. And the captain's telling him about this sandbar over here and this bend over here. And he's telling him a lot of stuff all the way down. So on the way back up, he says to Samuel Clemens, you're running the boat. He goes, wait a minute. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where we're going. And he goes, I told you about all these things. And he looks at the captain and I'll say, oh, you meant me to remember that? You wanted me to remember that? Or what do you think I'm telling you? We act like that as Christians. We make choices, we make decisions that are contrary to the Word of God, contrary to His commandments, not what God wants us to do at all. And then when God is a curse to us, we're like, God, what are you doing? And you know the Holy Spirit's telling you you shouldn't have done this and why you shouldn't have done it. I don't know, you may not have the same Holy Spirit as I do, but whenever I get punished from God, I know it and I know why. He lets me know through His Spirit. I know why I'm being punished. And we act like Well, oh, I was supposed to know that? Yes, you are. Because God says, you obey me, you obey my words, you obey my commandments, I'll bless you. Who here wants God to bless them? Everyone should raise their hands. We all do. I pray sometimes, I say, God, keep us I pray that we keep ourselves in a position to be blessed. What I'm praying is that we're obeying your word so you can bless us. I don't want to be cursed by God. What that means, I'm not sure. But I don't want to find out. And I know for a fact in my life, there has been times God has been a curse to me. Nothing is hidden from Him. He knows all. He sees all. He knows the deepest parts of my heart. And sometimes that's a comfort. Sometimes that's great. That He understands me. And He knows the pain and the heartache I'm going through. That's all great. But He also knows the evil, the wickedness. My motivation, why I said what I said, why I did what I did. No matter what I tell other people, God knows. And there have been times, even in my life, where God has punished me for my sin, and I know it. Those are not always good times. And sometimes God and I have to struggle with that. And I'll fight with God. And maybe I'm the only one. I doubt it. But in the end, I find out He was right and I was wrong. And I have to correct myself and start making what? Better choices. We as a church, we as Christians need to make better choices. Good choices. I have here the story of Saul. Saul was told by God to go to this one city-state and wipe them out. Kill them all. Don't leave any animals alive, no women, no children, nobody. Wow. There are people who read that and say, see, that's the God I don't like. That's the God I don't like. They say, see how bloodthirsty God is? I like Jesus. I just don't like God. And it blows their mind when you tell them that Jesus is that God. But here, let me tell you a little background about this. Remember we talked about earlier, a few weeks ago, about church still works and about how the Israelites, sometimes the older or the weaker or the slower, wouldn't be able to keep up with the whole camp and they would fall behind and people would come and rob them and kill them. These people that Saul is told to kill were those people. Let me tell you, God never forgets what happens to you. That's why the Bible tells us for us not to seek revenge and to do things on our own. God sees, God knows, and His timing will come. He will take care of it. And this was His punishment. This was His curse on these people for killing the children of Israel, the weak and the slow. I could go on about that, how God punishes us severely for us hurting the innocent and the weak and the defenseless and the elderly and the poor. God is constantly telling us those are the people we're supposed to stand up for and take care of, not hurt. And so He says, Saul, kill them all. Don't leave a man alive, not an animal alive. I don't want that place to ever exist again because of what they did to the children of Israel, my people. And Saul was told, and Saul went, and he came back. And God says to Samuel, Saul didn't obey me. He didn't obey me. And Saul goes to Samuel goes to Saul, and he says to Saul, did you obey God? And Saul said what? Yeah, I did. I obeyed God. I did everything God told me to. Samuel says, well, what's these animals? You're supposed to kill all the animals. See, what happened back in the day was part of the victory that you did when you killed or took over a country was the spoils. And so he kept a lot of... he says, it was the people. They wanted to do a sacrifice. And he kept the king alive. You know why? Because you always kept the king as a trophy. And you paraded him around and show that you're a greater person or a greater king because, look, I have this king. There's even a story of the king in the Old Testament times. It's not in our Old Testament, but it's in history, where they took this one king and made him a footstool. And whenever the one king that captured the other king, whenever he needed a footstool, he would have, and that guy for the rest of his life would have to be on all fours and let that king put his feet on him as a footstool to show that I'm a better, a superior king. So it was a pride thing, and Saul kept him. What did God say? Kill everything, destroy everything. Did he obey God's voice? The answer is no. Let's read what 1 Samuel says in 15:22. And Samuel said, hath the Lord as great delight in burnt offering and sacrifices, as in obeying the voice of the Lord? Behold, to obey is better than sacrifice, and to hearken than the fat of rams. So what does God expect? Obedience. You can come up with all your excuses, all your reasons. You can lie to yourself. You can lie to others. But what God expects is obedience. If you don't know what to do, you don't have an answer, obey God. People come to you and they ask, what should we do? Do what's right. Obey God. Well, I'm not sure. Then find out. If you're not sure what the obedience of God is on this issue, find out. That's your responsibility. Because God says, I set before you to be a blessing or a curse. Which one do you want? It's your choice. It's your choice. Because obedience is the most important thing to God. And I'll end it with this. You know why? Think as a parent. When you set a rule, you tell your child to do something, and they don't do it on purpose, oh, the feeling of disrespect that comes across you. There is nothing more disrespectful than to have your child directly disobey you. I know Mom and Dad said to do this, but I'm not. I'm going to do this. And the disrespect that comes across. There is nothing more disrespectful, Christian, to your God than to disobey Him on purpose. I know what God says about this. I know what God feels about this. I know what I've been told, but I don't care. I've got this answer. I've got this way. I figured it out myself. This is the best for me. We'll say those things. And God's all the time saying, but obey me. You want my blessing? Obey me. You want my blessing in your home? Have your home obey me. Keep my commandments. If you want my blessing on your church, Spernica Baptist, obey me, and I'll bless you. You want a blessing in your country? Then our country, our leaders, need to obey God. Bottom line. Or God says I can be a curse. Choice is yours. There's even where we go later, God says choose life or death. I can either give you life or I can bring you death. Jesus said, don't fear those that can kill the body. Fear the one who can kill the body and the soul. Jesus took it a step further. The choice is yours. Make better choices. I'm not sure what that is. I do end it with this. I mean it. There's the book of Job, and in the book of Job, Job writes and says, or it says of Job, "Oh God, that you had a book. Oh, that you had a book, so I would know your thoughts and your commandments." And guess what? Job didn't have the book, but we do. And we're expected to keep this. You want me to live my life according to a book, you might be saying? And the answer is, it's not what I want. God wants you to live your life according to this. It's the only authority in life. Some say the final authority. I say the only authority. Everything is dependent on our obedience to God. And He can be a blessing or He can be a curse. The choice is yours. Let us close in prayer.